The story of Sean Combs is a New York City legend, a real-life fairy tale written on subway cars and blasted from boomboxes on street corners. This is a tale of a kid from Harlem who looked at the skyline and saw his name written in lights. He wasn't just dreaming, he was planning. He saw the hustle in his blood, the rhythm in his soul. He transformed himself from a regular dude named Sean into a global force known as Puff Daddy, P. Diddy, and finally, just Diddy. He built an empire brick by brick, hit by hit. Bad Boy Records wasn't just a label. It was a cultural movement that defined the sound and style of the 90s. The music, the fashion, the attitude, it was all him. That hustle was born from pain, though. When Diddy was just a toddler, his father, Melvin Combs, was taken from him. Melvin was a player in the streets, a man who lived and died by its code. His death left a void in young Sean's life, a ghost that would haunt him and drive him. He swore he would never follow that path. Instead, he would take the energy of the streets and flip it, turning it into legitimate power and wealth. And he did it. He turned that ambition into a billion-dollar fortune, with his hands in everything from Ciroc vodka to Revolt TV. He was the ultimate symbol of making it, the guy who proved you could come from nothing and own everything. He wasn't just rich, he was aspirational. Diddy sold a lifestyle of endless parties, private jets, and white-hot success. He was the guy throwing the most lavish parties in the Hamptons, the one popping bottles on yachts in St. Bart's. He made you believe that if you just worked hard enough, if you just wanted it bad enough, you could have it all too. His motto, "Can't stop, won't stop," became a mantra for a generation of grinders and dreamers. He was more than a mogul. He was a king, and his kingdom was built on the very idea that he was untouchable, forever floating above the struggles of ordinary people. But kingdoms can crumble. The whispers that followed Diddy for years, the dark rumors that swirled just beneath the surface of his shiny public image, finally grew into a roar. The same ambition that propelled him to the top became the very thing that threatened to bring him crashing down. The man who seemed to have everything was about to learn a hard lesson. Gravity is real. No matter how high you fly, you can still fall. The crown he had polished for decades was beginning to tarnish, and the throne he sat on was starting to shake. The Prince of Harlem was about to face a reckoning that no amount of money or fame could stop. The end came faster than anyone expected. For years, Diddy moved through the world like a ghost, untouched by the scandals that would have destroyed anyone else. But starting in 2023, the walls started closing in. Allegations that had been whispered in backrooms for decades were now being shouted from the headlines. The lawsuits piled up, each one telling a darker story than the last. The feds were watching, building a case piece by piece. The raids on his mansions in Miami and Los Angeles were a public spectacle, a sign that the government was no longer just watching. They were coming for the king. The empire was under siege, and its leader was in the crosshairs. The trial was a media circus, a blockbuster event that played out in a packed Manhattan courtroom. In September 2025, the hammer finally fell. While he was acquitted of the most severe charges like racketeering, the jury found him guilty on 2 counts of transportation for the purposes of prostitution. It was a stunning blow. The man who had built his brand on power and control was now powerless. In October 2025, the judge handed down the sentence. 50 months in federal prison, 4 years and 2 months. It wasn't a life sentence, but for a man like Diddy, it might as well have been. The billionaire mogul was officially a convicted felon. Before he was shipped out, Diddy got a taste of real confinement at the Metropolitan Detention Center in Brooklyn. MDC Brooklyn is no joke. It's a tough, grim place where you're just a number waiting for your fate. Rumors even flew. that Diddy had a close call in there, waking up to a threat that reminded him his name and money meant nothing behind those walls. It was a brutal preview of what was to come. His lawyers fought to get him into a better situation, a place where he wouldn't just be warehousing time. They pushed for a transfer, a move to a facility with programs that could offer a glimmer of hope. On October 30th, 2025, the transfer came through. Sean Combs was moved from the harsh reality of MDC Brooklyn to the Federal Correctional Institution at Fort Dix, New Jersey. This wasn't a random placement. His legal team specifically requested it. Fort Dix had a residential drug abuse program, a special unit that, if completed, could shave time off his sentence. It was a strategic move, a way to play the hand he was dealt. But it didn't change the fundamental truth. The man who once flew on private jets was now being transported like any other federal inmate, leaving the city he once owned in his rearview mirror. His new home was waiting. Fort Dix isn't your typical prison. It doesn't have the high walls, the watchtowers with armed guards, or the menacing vibe of a maximum security fortress. Located on a sprawling joint military base in New Jersey, it has a history that's more about soldiers than inmates. The place was established way back in 1917 as a military training ground, a place where generations of American troops prepared for war. For decades, it was all about discipline, order, and service to the country. It wasn't until 1991 that a section of the base was converted into what it is today, one of the largest federal prisons in the United States. Because of its military past, the layout is different. It feels more like a campus or a barracks than a penitentiary. This has earned it the nickname Club Fed, or a country club prison. But don't get it twisted, it's still a cage. It's a low-security facility, which means it's designed for inmates who are not considered a major threat to society. The population is huge, with over 3,000 men serving time. Most of them are there for non-violent offenses, white-collar crimes, drug charges, and other federal violations. It's a place where the system sends people it wants to punish, but not necessarily break. The low-security designation means life inside is structured, but allows for more movement than in higher security joints. Inmates live in dormitories, not individual cells. They share living quarters, bathrooms, and common areas. This creates a different kind of social dynamic. You're constantly surrounded by people, which can be both a good and a bad thing. There's less tension than in a place where everyone is locked down for 23 hours a day, but there's also no escape. You have to learn to navigate the politics of a small, confined city where everyone is doing time together. The focus at Fort Dix is meant to be on rehabilitation. The Bureau of Prisons offers a wide range of work assignments, vocational training, and educational programs. The goal is to give inmates a routine and maybe some skills they can use when they get out. There are jobs working in the kitchens, maintaining the grounds, or in UNICOR, the Federal Prison Industries Program. For someone like Diddy, who is used to being the boss, being assigned a menial job for pennies an hour is a humbling experience. It's a constant reminder that he is no longer in charge. He is now part of a system designed to strip away individuality and enforce compliance. When people hear the word prison, they usually picture one thing: high walls, barbed wire, and violent criminals. But the federal system is a lot more complicated than that. It's a ladder of security levels, and where you land depends on your crime, your history, and how much of a threat the government thinks you are. Diddy ended up at Fort Dix, a low-security spot, but his journey could have been very different. It's important to understand the levels to really get how his situation, while bad, could have been a whole lot worse. He's in a cage, but not all cages are built the same. At the very bottom of the ladder, you have the minimum security camps. These are the real club feds. Often, They don't even have fences. They house non-violent offenders with short sentences and are designed to feel more like a work camp than a prison. Inmates have more freedom and access to programs. Compare that to Diddy's spot at Fort Dix. It's a step up in security. There are fences, there are guards, and the rules are stricter. It's still a low-security institution, but it's a more controlled environment than a camp. You're definitely locked in. Move up another rung and you hit the medium-security prisons. Now things start to get serious. Here, you'll find more inmates with histories of violence. The housing is different, often shifting from dorms to cells with 2 or more men locked in together. The perimeter is more secure, usually with double fences and electronic detection systems. There's more staff, and they watch you more closely. The freedom of movement you might find at a place like Fort Dix is gone. Your day is more regimented, and the tension is higher. This is where the threat of violence becomes a real part of daily life. Then you get to the top of the ladder, high-security penitentiaries, or what they call US penitentiaries, USPs, and above that, the infamous supermax, ADX Florence. These places are reserved for the most dangerous and notorious offenders, terrorists, cartel leaders, and violent gang bosses. Inmates are locked in single cells for 23 hours a day. Human contact is almost non-existent. The facilities are fortresses of concrete and steel, designed for total control. When you compare Diddy's dorm at Fort Dix to a 6-by-8-foot cell at a supermax, you see the vast difference. He lost his freedom, but he avoided the hell that is the deep end of the federal system. Sean Combs is the latest, and maybe the biggest, celebrity to trade a mansion for a bunk bed at Fort Dix. But, you know, he's far from the first. Over the years, this low-security prison has become a go-to destination for a certain type of fallen star. The wealthy, the powerful, and the infamous. The list of its former residents, honestly, reads like a "where are they now?" of headline-grabbing scandals. These are guys who once ran boardrooms, law firms, and even countries, all brought down to the same level, forced to wear the same khaki uniform and answer to the same roll call. One of the most well-known names to do time there was Michael Cohen, the former personal attorney and fixer for Donald Trump. Cohen was the ultimate insider who found himself on the outside, sentenced for campaign finance violations and lying to Congress. He wrote a whole book about his experience at Fort Dix, detailing the day-to-day grind and the strange social hierarchy of the prison. His story showed the world that even a man with deep political connections ends up eating the same bland food and following the same rigid rules as everyone else. Fort Dix became a symbol of his dramatic fall from grace. Then you have the fraudsters and scammers. Billy McFarland, the mastermind behind the disastrous Fire Festival, served part of his sentence at Fort Dix. He went from selling a fantasy of luxury and exclusivity to living in a dorm with hundreds of other men. Martin Shkreli, the so-called farmer bro, who became one of the most hated men in America for jacking up the price of a life-saving drug, also passed through the facility. These guys were masters of deception on the outside, but inside Fort Dix, their charisma and schemes meant nothing. They were just inmates, stripped of the power they had abused. The list goes on. Joe Giudice, of the Real Housewives of New Jersey fame, did time there for fraud before being deported to Italy. Chris Collins, a former United States congressman, was sent there for insider trading. What this history shows is that Fort Dix has a specific role in the justice system. It's the place where the system sends its white-collar and high-profile convicts. It's a clear message: no one is above the law. Diddy is now part of this strange fraternity of the fallen famous. He's walking the same grounds, sleeping in the same kind of bunk, and living under the same rules as the disgraced lawyers, politicians and con artists who came before him. The life Sean Combs knew is gone, vanished. The man who curated every second of his existence, from the clothes he wore to the lighting in his rooms, now has zero control. His identity has been replaced by a number 80112-054. That number is who he is now. He wakes up when he's told, he eats when he's told, and he sleeps when he's told. The custom-tailored suits are gone, replaced by a standard-issue khaki uniform. The diamond watches are gone, replaced by the slow, grinding passage of prison time. The entourage of assistants and bodyguards has been replaced by correctional officers and fellow inmates. His world has shrunk from a global empire to the confines of a prison compound. The daily routine is a monotonous loop. There's the early morning wake-up call, the mandatory head counts, the assigned work detail for pennies an hour. Maybe it's cleaning floors, working in the kitchen, or sorting laundry. It's humbling, mindless work designed to kill time and enforce discipline. The gourmet meals prepared by private chefs are a distant memory. Now it's trays of starchy, unseasoned food served in a crowded mess hall. It's about survival, not pleasure. The days of popping Ciroc bottles are over. Now it's water from a fountain. The first photos of Diddy in his new reality shocked the world. Leaked around the beginning of November 2025, they showed him during recreation time, looking almost unrecognizable. The swagger was gone. His hair was graying, his face was drawn. He was just another man in a prison yard, stripped of the aura of invincibility that had defined him for 3 decades. The images were a stark and brutal illustration of his fall. The media frenzy was intense. Every detail of his new life became a headline, a public spectacle of a private misery. The world that once celebrated his every move was now fixated on his every stumble. For Diddy, the biggest challenge isn't the physical hardship, it's the mental game. He's a man whose entire identity was built on being the boss, the one in control. In prison, you have no control. You are a pawn in a system much bigger than you. He's currently in the special drug treatment unit, separated from the general population. This was a strategic move by his lawyers, but it also means he's surrounded by men battling their own demons. It's a world away from the glamorous parties and boardrooms he once dominated. This is the new reality, a concrete world where the only thing you own is your time. To understand Sean Combs, you have to go back to the beginning. You have to go back to the ghost that has shaped his entire life, his father, Melvin Combs. When Diddy was only 2 years old, his father was shot and killed in a drug deal gone wrong. He was an associate of Frank Lucas, one of Harlem's most notorious gangsters. Melvin lived the fast life and died by its rules. Diddy grew up with this shadow hanging over him, a story of a father he never knew, a man who represented a path he was determined to avoid. He spent his whole life running from that ghost. That tragedy became the fuel for his ambition. Diddy has talked about it many times over the years. He didn't want to be a street hustler like his father. He wanted to be a legitimate businessman. He wanted the power and the money, but he wanted it the right way. He channeled all that street energy, all that hustle he inherited, into the music business. He built Bad Boy Records into a powerhouse, proving that he could be more successful than his father ever dreamed of, and he could do it legally. His entire career was a reaction to his father's life and death, an attempt to build a legacy that would wash away the stain of the past. Now, locked away in Fort Dix, the irony must be crushing. He spent a lifetime trying to escape his father's fate, only to end up in a cage himself. He didn't die in the streets, but he lost his freedom to the system. He built a billion-dollar empire to create distance from the world that took his father. But in the end, the law caught up with him too. The conviction, while not for the same kind of street crime, still carries the shame of a criminal record. The son who tried to outrun his father's shadow has found himself trapped in a different kind of darkness. In some ways, his story has come full circle. He is now a father whose own children have to watch him go through this public humiliation. He is the one whose mistakes are now casting a long shadow over his family. The ghost of Melvin Combs is likely more present than ever inside the walls of Fort Dix. As Diddy sits in his dorm with nothing but time to think, he must be replaying the story of his life, wondering where it all went wrong. He tried to write a different ending for himself, but somehow he ended up in a chapter that feels hauntingly familiar. The son's journey now mirrors the father's in the one way he never wanted, a legacy tainted by crime. Even behind bars, the hustle doesn't die. For a man like Diddy, giving up is not an option. His mantra has always been, "Can't stop, won't stop," and that applies to his legal battle just as much as it did to his business career. The moment the guilty verdict came down, his high-powered legal team was already planning the next move. They are fiercely appealing the conviction, arguing that the law used to convict him, the Mann Act, was misapplied. They claim the law, which is over a century old and designed to stop human trafficking, was twisted to fit his case. This appeal is his main lifeline, his best shot at overturning the whole thing. The legal fight is happening on two fronts. While the appeal slowly makes its way through the courts, a process that can take months or even years, there's a more immediate strategy at play. The reason Diddy is at Fort Dix is no accident. His lawyers specifically requested the transfer so he could get into the Residential Drug Abuse Program, RDAP. This is one of the most sought-after programs in the federal prison system. It's an intense 500-hour therapy program designed to help inmates with substance abuse issues. It's a tough program, but it comes with a huge reward. The prize for completing RDAP is a sentence reduction of up to 1 year. For someone serving 50 months, that's a massive chunk of time. It could be the difference between getting out in 2028 and getting out in 2027. This is the short-term game. Get through the program, get the time cut, and get out as soon as possible. It's a calculated move, a way to make the best of a bad situation. It shows that even in prison, Diddy is still thinking like a strategist, looking for every possible angle to gain an advantage. He's not just passively doing his time, he's actively working to shorten it. So for now, his future hangs in the balance. There are two paths to freedom. The long shot is the appeal, the hope that a higher court will see the case differently and throw out the conviction entirely. That would be a total victory, a complete vindication. The more realistic path is grinding through his sentence, completing the RDAP program, and getting that year knocked off. His projected release date is May 8th, 2028. But if he plays his cards right, he could be a free man much sooner. The empire may have fallen, but the fight is far from over. When the final chapter of Sean Combs's story is written, what will it say? Will he be remembered as the visionary from Harlem who built $1 billion empire and changed the face of music and culture? Or will he be remembered as Inmate 80112-054, the fallen mogul whose legacy was forever stained by a federal conviction? Right now, his life has two competing narratives. There is the story of the American dream, the incredible rise from poverty to unimaginable wealth and power. And then there is the story of the American nightmare, the dramatic fall from grace that landed him in a prison cell. The contrast between his past and his present is almost too extreme to believe. This is a man who once hosted parties for presidents and princes, who vacationed on mega yachts and owned homes that looked like resorts. He was the definition of success, a living symbol of black excellence and entrepreneurial genius. He didn't just make music. He crafted a cultural identity for a generation. The bad boy sound, the shiny suits, the unapologetic celebration of wealth. It was all part of the fantasy he sold to the world. A fantasy that, for a long time, was his reality. Now that reality is gone. The beat has stopped. The party is over. His current existence at Fort Dix is the polar opposite of everything he built his life around. It's a world of humility, not hubris. A world of rules, not freedom. A world of anonymity, not fame. For a man whose entire brand was built on being larger than life, being reduced to just another inmate is the ultimate punishment. It's a public stripping away of the power and prestige he worked his entire life to accumulate. The fall is not just about the loss of freedom. It's about the loss of an identity. Ultimately, Diddy's story serves as a cautionary tale. It's a reminder that no one is untouchable. No amount of money, power, or fame can place you permanently above the consequences of your actions. He flew closer to the sun than almost anyone, but his wings still melted. His legacy is now on trial, not in a courtroom, but in the court of public opinion. While he serves his time, the world will debate who he truly is. Is he the hero of his own story, the kid who made it against all odds? Or is he the villain, the man whose ambition finally consumed him? The final beat of his song has yet to be played, but the melody has changed forever.